Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, J.K. Rowling. Chapter 4, The Keeper of the Keys. Boom! They knocked again. Dudley jerked awake. "You're the cannon," he said stupidly. There was a crash behind them, and Uncle Vernon came skidding into the room. He was holding a rifle in his hand. Now they knew what had been in the long, thin package he had brought with them. "Who'd you dare?" he shouted. "I warn you, I'm armed." There was a pause. Then, smash! The door was hit with such a force it swung clean off its hinges and with a deafening crash landed flat on the floor. A giant of a man was standing in the doorway. His face was almost completely hidden by a long, shaggy mane of hair and a wild, tangled beard, but you could make out his eyes, glinting like black beetles under all the hair. The giant skidded his way into the hut, stooping so that his head just brushed the ceiling. He bent down, picked up the door, and fitted it easily back into its frame. The noise of the storm outside dropped a little. He turned to look at them all. "Couldn't make us a cup of tea, could ya? It's not been an easy journey." He strode over to the sofa and Dudley sat frozen with fear. "Budge up, ya great lump," said Strange. Dudley skidded and ran to hide behind the mother, find his mother, who was crouching, terrified behind Uncle Vernon. "And here's Harry," said the giant. Harry looked up into the fierce, wild, shadowy face and saw that the beetle eyes were crinkled in a smile. "Last time I saw you, you was only a baby," said the giant. "Ya look a lot like ya dad, but you've got your mom's eyes." Uncle Vernon made a funny, rasping noise. "I demand that you leave at once, sir," he said. "You are breaking and entering." "Ah, shut up, Dudley, ya great fool," said the giant. He reached over the back of the sofa, jerked gun out of the Uncle Vernon's hand, bent into a knot as easily as if it had been made of rubber, and threw it into a corner of the room. Uncle Vernon made another funny noise, like a mouse being trodden on. "Anyway, Harry," said the giant, turning his back on the Dudleys, "a very happy birthday to you. Get some for you here. I might sit on it at some point, but it'll taste alright." From inside the pocket of his black overcoat, he pulled slightly squashed the box. Harry opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a large, sticky chocolate cake with "Happy Birthday, Harry" written on in green icing. Harry looked up at the giant. He meant to say thank you, but the words got lost on the way to his mouth, and what he said instead was, "Who are you?" The giant chuckled. "True, I haven't introduced myself. Rufus Hagrid, keeper of keys and grounds at Hogwarts." He held out an enormous hand and shook Harry's whole arm. "What about that tea, then, eh?" he said, rubbing his hands together. "I did not say no the stronger if ya got it. Mind. His eyes fell on the empty grate with shriveled chip bags in it, and he snorted. He bent down over the fireplace. They couldn't see what he was doing, but when he drew back a second later, there was a roaring fire there. It filled the whole damn hut with flickering light, and Harry felt a warmth wash over him as though he'd sunk into a hot bath. The giant sat back down to the sofa, which sagged under his weight, and began taking all sorts of things out of the pocket of his coat. A cooker and kettle, a squash package of sausage, a poker and teapot, several chipping mugs, and a bottle of some amber liquid, and he took a swig from before starting to make tea. Soon the hut was full of the sound and smell of the sizzling sausage. Nobody said a thing while Giant was walking, but as he slid the first 6 fat, juicy, slightly burned sausage from the poker, Dudley fidgeted a little. Uncle Bennon said sharply, "Don't touch anything he gives you, Dudley." The giant chuckled darkly. Yet grand pudding of a son don't need fattening anymore. Dudley, don't worry. He passed the sausage to Harry, who was so hungry he had never tasted anything so wonderful, but he still couldn't take his eyes off the giant. Finally, as nobody seemed about to explain anything, he said, "I'm sorry, but I still don't really know who you are." The giant took a gulp of tea and wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. "Call me Hagrid," he said. "Everyone does. And like I told you, I'm keeper of key and Hogwarts. You'll know all about Hogwarts, of course." No," said Harry. Hagrid looked shocked. "Sorry?" "Sorry," Harry said quickly. "Sorry?" barked Hagrid, turning to stare at the Dudleys, who shrank back into the shadow. "It's them as should be sorry. I knew ya weren't getting ya letter, but I never thought you wouldn't even know about Hogwarts, for crying out loud. Did ya never wonder where your parents learned at all?" "All what?" asked Harry. "All what?" Hagrid thundered. "Now, wait just 1 second." He had leaped to his feet, and his anger seemed to fill the whole hut. The Dudleys were cowering against the wall. "Do you mean tell me," he growled at the Dudleys, "that this boy knows nothing about anything?" Harry thought this was going a bit far. He had been to school afterward, and his marks weren't bad. "I know something," he said. "I can, do maths and stuff." But Hagrid simply waved his hand and said, "About our world, I mean, your world, my world, your parents' world." "What world?" Hagrid looked as if he was about to explode. "Dudley!" he boomed. Uncle Bennon, who had gone very pale, whispered something that sounded like mumble-wimble. Hagrid stared widely at Harry. "But you must know about your mom and dad," he said. "I mean, they are famous. You are famous." "What? My mom and dad weren't famous, were they?" "Yeah, don't know. You don't know?" Hagrid ran his finger through his hair, fixing Harry with a bewildered stare. "Yeah, don't know, fan you are," he said finally. he said finally. Uncle Vernon suddenly found his voice. Stop! He commanded. Stop right there, sir. I forbid you to tell the boy anything. A braver man than Vernon Dudley would have quailed under the furious look Harry now gave him. When Hagrid spoke, his every syllable trembled with rage. You never told him what was in the letter Dumbledore left for him. I was there. I saw Dumbledore leave it, Dudley, and you are keep it from him all these years. Kept what from me? Said Harry eagerly. Stop! I forbid you! Yelled Uncle Vernon in panic. Aunt Petunia gave a gasp of horror. Ah, go boil your head, both of ya, said Hagrid. Harry, you are wizard. There was a silence inside the hut. Only the sea, and the whistling wind could be heard. I'm what? Gasped Harry. A wizard. Of course, said Hagrid, sitting back down on the sofa, which ground and sank even lower. And something got then, I'd say, once you've been trained up a bit, with your mom and dad like yours, what else would we be? And I reckon it's about time, yeah, with your letter. Harry stretched out his hand and last to take the yellowish envelope, addressed in emerald green to Mr. Harry Potter, the flower hunt on the lock, the thief. He pulled out the letter and read. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Headmaster Albus Dumbledore. Order of Merlin. First Class. Grand Sorcerer. Chief Warlock. Supreme Mugwump. International Compet of Wizard. Dear Mr. Potter, you are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find enveloped a list of all necessary books and equipment. Term beginning on September 1st. We await your owl by no later than July 31st. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall. Deputy Headmistress. Questions exploded inside Harry's head like fireworks, and he couldn't decide which to ask first. After a few minutes, he stammered, What does it mean? They await my owl. Galloping gorgons, that reminds me, said Hagrid, clapping a hand to his forehead with enough force to knock over the cart horse, and from yet another pocket inside his overcoat he pulled an owl, a real-life, rather ruffled-looking owl, a long quill and a lot of parchment. With his tongue between his teeth, he scribed a note that Harry could read upside down. Dear Professor Dumbledore, given Harry his letter, taking him to buy his things tomorrow. Weather's horrible. Hope you are well, Hagrid. Hagrid rolled up the note, gave it to the owl, which clamped in its beak, went to the door, and threw an owl out into the storm. Then he came back and sat down as though he was normal as talking on the telephone.